How PhDs work. What are the trade-offs? For a university/professor, they get a grant from a funding agency such as NSF or Army, and they hire students to do research on a problem. Getting grants is little hard but not terrible. Once you get a grant, your main responsibility is to publish conference and journal articles in top places in that area. Again, after some experience, publishing in some good enough conference or journal is not that hard either. You know that if someone spent enough time and effort, they can easily publish. So less of a deal. Generally, the students you get in top schools are pretty good quality, and if you can take high-level grad courses and do something meaningful there, then it means you can easily do good research. As an advisor, there is very little time commitment. You spend few hours every week, and it is the student who does the work and carries the weight of the research. So as an advisor, it is low-stake investment. Grants are some work to get, students are plenty to get, it isn't that hard to publish papers, and the time you commit to is also relatively low. There is some risk, of course, but most times things can be handled. Overall, the only responsibility you have is to guide the students to get 2 to 3 journal papers out in 5 years of good enough quality. The responsibility of learning a field, doing good work to get a position later, and how to maneuver the political landscape is the responsibility of the student. To the thesis committee, you show that you have published in these conferences and journals, generally 2 to 3, and you are done. This is what is required for a PhD. So, a student comes, spend 5 years of their time, take courses and do other random things. In one of those weeks, they will hit on an idea that will be their thesis. Then they graduate and you run the cycle again. Talking to smart students is fun, thinking about new ideas is fun, going into details is not fun, writing papers and be precise with everything isn't the best or the most enjoyable work. Doing literature review, writing precisely, being consistent with the equations, going into details, all this is boring, low-level task that nobody wants to do, and you hire grad students to do that for you. But having a good pay, working in a top school with good supply of very talented, motivated, naive, inexperienced students full of energy who will do most work is very amazing. What's in for the student? The student is spending 5+ best years of his life towards a field, advisor and environment. And this determines trajectory of their life in a major way. They are doing most of the work and are driving a system. So, the stakes for the student are quite high. Also, the students mostly in their early 20s want to enjoy their 20s and do other things in life. Things that impact your performance. Advisor, the most important thing. You become their copy and know what they know so far. Choose your advisor very carefully. School ranking, you will meet smartest people across the globe in top schools who are driven and want to do similar things. And these people will run the world, so you will be best friends with some of the most powerful people in the world. Also, you will have easy access to some big shot professors in the world, and being around them and have easy access to them is quite valuable. The whole world looks at top schools like MIT, Berkeley, Stanford. It isn't always the case that they are doing the best work, and many people in the lower ranked schools are also doing good work, but these schools get all the limelight. So, it is in your strategic interest to be there. And when you go out for any jobs, faculty or non-faculty, these brandings will take you far. But do note that in many of these schools there is intense pressure of doing hot stuff and not necessarily meaningful stuff, and I know many faculty in Midwestern schools like UIUC who are doing much more meaningful stuff than, say, MIT. And many times, they want you to publish a lot, which can take away from other aspects of life. So, find the right trade-off. Overall, there are a lot of bad faculty in academia who are looking for smart, talented students from all over the world to write papers for them while they don't work or provide their input as their life is set. They have a big supply of talented students, and they can afford to not care. Once you get a position and/or tenure and know the paper writing art, you don't have anyone to report to and you can do anything. This is very powerful, as now you can hire students and make them work on anything that leads to publications. You have very little costs involved. So when you join any random professor, know that you are trying to advance their agenda. In the best situation, it aligns with yours as much as possible, and in the worst cases, it misaligns, in which case you pay the cost with your years spent there and the trauma incurred. Most of the time these students in their early 20s don't know what they are good at, what is in their best interest, how academia works, etc., and they believe in a world where the universities and professors would guide them into what's in their best interest. And the good ones whose interest aligns with yours will. But most people don't. A lot of academia is bad and is money/grant driven, where they just want people to write papers on a particular topic because they got a grant from some entity to write a paper on that, or these papers will help them advance their careers. They have zero interest in what you are doing, if it is in your best interest, if you are going to get a good position based on this, if you are talented and how to shape that talent, etc. And rather than just being a zero, it is more negative. They will drain your talent and energy towards something that you don't care about or doesn't gel with who you are, and would psychologically impact you by dragging you into something that you didn't realize initially that is not the best for you. And with limited experience and immaturity, you may not know what are the right steps to take to correct this situation. And academia isn't like the free world where you can leave one day if it is not working and join another. PhD works on 5-year terms, and it isn't easy to move around in academia without recommendations, etc. This is the current state of academia today. It is a paper writing industry with zero care about students' interests. And students are at the receiving end. Once you get maturity in a field, you know 10 different papers one can write in that area by small tweaks. And it is very easy to hire students to write those non-significant papers and put them on a grant website to get more grants and more students. Nobody meaningful would want to write those papers, and they don't add much. But many faculty do that as they want more grants, more papers for their promotion, etc. The only people who are losing in this are the students who could have used their time with better faculty who would have added something to them, and at the opportunity cost if they worked with a real professor who taught them something and they could have made their lives. The number of very talented students not achieving their potential in life because of bad decisions of choosing a bad advisor is alarming. There are good professors who at some point were talented students, as you are right now, who want to do meaningful stuff, and not necessarily the hot stuff, who want to develop students, who care about the real stuff. But they are a very small minority, say less than 10%. Most people after they get a permanent position don't care about anything else. And most people who get PhD aren't happy with their experience. I would say less than 5% are happy, and the rest are those who lived on some sort of contradiction, either wrong field, wrong advisor, wrong motivation, etc. Note that in their PhDs people waste a lot of time thinking about all kinds of things about life, cultural differences, philosophies, religions, universe, world, stars, inequalities, politics, etc. Most people don't realize that these things are in the background, while the most important thing in what you are doing is trying to learn a field, channelize your creativity to build something, and learn that process about yourself in the field you are in to create, and make significant contribution in, so you can make your mark on the world to a better rest of life. This is the only way to live life as a researcher, not in the stars, God, universe, but by creating new things from what's best in you, i.e. by living on this earth, within the system. This is exactly how most good professors are living, because they know this is the only way to live as a researcher, i.e. by choosing good problems that are close to their psyche, are important to work on, get them a living, and create something that changes the world for the better. The politics, stars, universe, inequalities are just background information to create a model for you to know what kind of world you are living in. It's just gravy, not the meat. The purpose of life is not philosophizing about life, but to use the right philosophy to live a good life right here on this planet. Life in front of you is an empty space. All it matters is how you fill it up with. The more productive, positive, creative things you put in, the better it is, and to live within your realities. The point of this post is to tell you to be very selfish towards your life. You are dealing with very smart, very experienced, and very powerful mafia, and you need to be very careful before choosing your place in the world. Choose the right field, right advisor, who cares about their work, who supports you, encourages you, whose students are going to good places in academia, who has a good reputation, and who is doing meaningful work. Currently, systems allow you significant freedom to do what you want, and if you are a smart, talented person, you can make good of yourself in this life. This is exactly how most good professors are living, because they know this is the only way to live as a researcher, i.e. by choosing good problems that are close to their psyche, are important to work on, get them a living, and create something that changes the world for the better. The politics, stars, universe, inequalities are just background information to create a model for you to know what kind of world you are living in. It's just gravy, not the meat. The purpose of life is not philosophizing about life, but to use the right philosophy to live a good life right here on this planet. Life in front of you is an empty space. All it matters is how you fill it up with. The more productive, positive, creative things you put in, the better it is, and to live within your realities. The point of this post is to tell you to be very selfish towards your life. You are dealing with very smart, very experienced, and very powerful mafia, and you need to be very careful before choosing your place in the world. Choose the right field, right advisor, who cares about their work, who supports you, encourages you, whose students are going to good places in academia, who has a good reputation, and who is doing meaningful work. Don't give your mind to people who want to exploit you, who are not looking at your interest, who are not adding to your life, who are doing shoddy work, who are working to write grants and advance their careers and look at you as their tool to do the same. That's the vast majority. Stay away from them. Put your interests and your field as the most important thing and think of an advisor as a means for you to learn that field in the most meaningful way possible and as a chariot who can guide you through the academic system to get you a good academic job later. The only goal in life is to keep moving, to move as fast as you can, to learn as much as you can, to create as much as you can, and live all your faculties in the best way possible to you, to live a rich, meaningful, rational life with as less aberrations as possible and less negatives, including people and experiences, but if they do happen, as they will, deal with them rationally. Be consciously and rationally selfish about your own life. Also know that everyone else is selfish about their own too, consciously or not. And try to find people whose interests match with yours. This is the only way to make good relationships, other than your family. Choose a field such that if you were to think about it for the rest of your life, you will happily do it. There are good people out there. Do your research to find them.